Welcome to the Business Rescue Boardroom.
Welcome in the Business Rescue Boardroom. Today with us in the boardroom is Senior Business Rescue Practitioner George Nell.
Yes, thank you, Gideon. In our previous discussion, we have the ABC of Business Rescue. Today, we would look at the life cycle of a company on its way to business rescue. Can you, as an analyst, just explain that terminology?
Yes, George, certainly. So, going back a few steps, or maybe perhaps a few years within a business, we traditionally know that any company has got a life cycle. Usually you will find yourself in the entrepreneurial days or the early days or your startup of your company where cash flow is usually an issue, but the business continues due to the passion of the entrepreneur and the business exists. This is usually a phase where the entrepreneur or the starter of the business defines his product, establish market, works on the system and processes to get the company building. Statistically in South Africa, they report that a company or the startup phase is 3 years of a company, and this is usually the timeline that it would take for the company to reach stability. During these 3 years, we usually find that the company's growth increases exponentially up until a point where the company has managed to surpass all challenges. Following that is a few years of growth. It usually differs per company, but profitable, good growth and market share and expansion is followed by the entrepreneurial phase. Up until such point where the company has grown beyond expectations, and usually they find themselves in a position where there's too much staff, there's too much machinery. The entrepreneurs or the founders or the board of directors have or needed finance, external finance to fund the operations and the abnormal growth. And this is usually at a point where they find themselves in a point of financial distress where the monthly obligations has possibly exceeded the cash turnaround time on a monthly basis. Usually as practitioner, I use 4 basic indicators that all together have a reliance on the cash flow, and that is usually the sales strategy of the business, is to who are you selling, what are you selling. Your financial strategy is how are you leveraging your debt and how are you applying your finances. Are you self-funding your operations or are you funding your operations through external debt or equity? Thirdly is the operations, is how refined is the operations. What operations do you require to execute your business or to produce your products? This would usually be infrastructure and human capital. At some stage in every business, you reach a break-even point. And if not identified early and rectified, you move up to a point of financial distress. And this is where a company starts realizing, but I don't have so much cash available. I can't pay my creditors 30 days or whatever your creditor terms may be. You experience, if some of your large debtors do not pay you as promised, the cash availability during those months or periods is difficult. And usually this is where the directors enter a self-help phase. So George, at this point, I'm going to hand over to you to explain to us the stages of the self-help phase. Yes. Up until a point
we have to take a decision. The self-help phase, as I call it, is where the company and the board of directors and the management start to make arrangements with their creditors. They are getting letters of demands. They get letter of demand. They get sued. And they make arrangements. They now not pay on 30 days, they pay on 60 days, and they try to stretch the cash. And they will also usually apply for a loan at the bank or financial institution or introduce new cash from the shareholders' side of things. And that is the self-help phase. You also will try to enter into arrangements with your employees. Section 189 of the Labour Relations Act will apply, and things like that. If you can arrange this and you get out of trouble, fantastic. After COVID-19, in this period that we live in now, companies are really distressed. There is not good business going around, and they are confronted at a specific day. Must we go into business rescue? Must we go into liquidation? And that is a major question. And we've discussed it in a previous program what financial distress is. And financial is the solvency and liquidity test. The plus and the minus must at least be 0. If it's a minus, then you're insolvent. And if you cannot pay your debtors or creditors as they become payable in the ensuing 6 months, you've got financial problems. Usually you'd know that this very, very early. And then the board are confronted with a decision to go into business rescue. The trick here is to take the decision timeously when you have enough fat available to do a business rescue properly. If you go into liquidation, a liquidator is appointed. The company, that's the death of the company. Yes, sometimes you can sell the business as a going concern, but the major instruction, the legislator deemed it good to give the liquidator instruction to sell all the assets of the company and divide the income derived out of that selling of the assets amongst the creditors in terms of a certain set of rules. No business is going on. It is the end of the company. Business rescue, on the other hand, has the life of the company in mind. And the life of the company is to reorganize the company's debt, to reorganize the company's affairs, arrangements with the employees and the like, and to try to rehabilitate the company to such an extent that it can come out of business rescue into the commercial world again and make a lot of money again. So that is the major difference between business rescue and liquidation. And then the self-help phase, and this is not legal or financial advice, but if I can use the word, I would advise a board of a company to timeously take a decision to go into business rescue and to have some fat there for the business rescue practitioner to do work with in the company. This is not a magician. He cannot rescue the company if the company is dead in the water. Then he has got a statutory obligation, if there's no reasonable prospect of rescuing the company, to liquidate the company. And that's the end of the company then.
So what do you see typically do directors do in the self-help phase to try and rectify the distress?
They wait too long to consult a proper lawyer, auditor or business rescue practitioner. They try too long to help themselves and then deplete all the assets and the unencumbered assets of the company. So that is the major thing. You can help yourself, but you must call in the professional earlier than later.
This is typically a scenario that plays itself out during every consultation, and that is that the board of directors forgot where they signed personal surety 20 years ago and also which assets are secured or encumbered. How does this usually affect the dynamics of a business rescue?
Yeah, what we usually do, we have a pre-assessment period where you see the board of directors. You pre-assess the situation of the company, which assets are encumbered, what contracts you have. That is now on an income side and on an expense side. Income side is, for instance, in the mining business, you would like to see what mining contracts they have or mine rights they have and things like that. So you analyze the company. The job that you usually do is to analyze the company. I'm more focused on the financial and the legal ramifications of the business rescue.
Well, thank you, George. This discussion remains very interesting, and stay tuned for our next episode.